All right, guys, we're here. World Cup time. Now, second game up, we need to beat Iraq. Otherwise, we're just in all sorts of trouble. But we beat them by 3 goals last year. Let's just do the same again. And before then, if we can get something off this game against the Ivory Coast, that puts us in a really good position to make our way through the knockouts again, even if it's just as one of the best third place teams, okay? So definitely need to beat Iraq. But ideally, we're pretty good against African teams. Let's take something as well off the Ivory Coast. World Cup time, boys.
Party in the streets and the city's on fire.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 102 of the New Zealand Builder Nation here on Shaun Does FM with both Kashmir Technicolor and the All Whites. And coming up today, it's our third World Cup here in this series, 2034 in South Korea. And we're going to play the first 2 games in Group F against the Ivory Coast and Iraq. So if you're looking forward to that coming up in today's episode, the start of this third World Cup, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. But yesterday we did wrap up the OFC Champions League with Kashmir Technical for this season with a win there over Tafia in the final. If you missed that one, I'll leave a link to it over in the top right corner. Since then, we have played 4 games off the back of that Champions League final, and all of them pretty comfortable wins. 7-0 over Ferrymead Bays in the Southern League, and our last game in the Southern League before this break for the World Cup was a 4-2 win over Christchurch United, even though they actually scored 2 goals and played better off the back of getting a red card with a half hour left, and also played the first 2 games in the Chatham Cup this season. 8-0 win there over the Wellington Phoenix Fourths, and then 8-2 over SQ United. Those 2 teams both up in the Central to Lower North Island. So good wins for us off the back of that Champions League win, as you would expect. But from this point forward, I'm going to start to focus on the FIFA World Cup. But before we do that, quick look at how each of the leagues in New Zealand are getting on. Auckland United actually on top of the Northern League, but Auckland City with quite a few games in hand there, so really play other team in the box seat. Central League, Western Suburbs, well and truly have that wrapped up. Technically haven't won the league, but they pretty much have, kind of like us in the Southern League. Wellington Olympic, though, are still struggling mid-table, but to be fair, not too far off those teams in second and third in that Central League, and we are 8 points clear of Ferrymead Bays. Nelson Suburbs still not that far away from a relegation spot either, so a couple of teams that made the National League Championship last season are struggling, but now most of us do get a break while this World Cup does take place. And in terms of that, first up, going to look at the squad that we do have going into this World Cup. This is our best 11 with one change that we're going to go with going to this first game where we take on the Ivory Coast. Thankfully, scheduling, I think, works out quite nicely for us. We've got the Ivory Coast, then Iraq, a team we should really be beating considering we beat them last year in the last game of the last window that we played 5-2. I actually think if we need to, we can get away winning that one with a rotated team and put out a stronger team against the Ivory Coast and Netherlands, just to make sure we pick up 1 point from those 2 games to make sure we should go through as one of the better third place teams of our squad. Going into this World Cup, everyone is fit and available. Libby Kakache is a bit tight off the back of the warm-up games that we did play, considering that Adam White was actually injured for those. That's the one change we're making going into this first game against the Ivory Coast compared to our usual best 11. A couple of changes though. Tyler Binden is actually the third choice centre-back in New Zealand these days. We're just comparing players leading into this World Cup with the extended 55-man squad that you can select. And yeah, Lucas Kelly-Heald and Simon Curtis these days, both actually better attribute-wise than Tyler Binden. So we're going to go with that pairing for this first game at the World Cup. That will be our first choice pairing at centre-back, albeit Tyler Binden does have Premier League experience with Wolves, so he might be a good idea to bring on in some big games. And also, a bit of a bolter, Jamie Young is better than both Jay Herbman and Jamie Kelly. So is our first choice central attacking midfielder is the young lad formerly from Nelson Suburbs, but of course these days from our club team in Kashmir Technical. And the extra players that we did select with that injury concern over Adam White going into the tournament, we did select Cody Phoenix as an extra left back option just in case that injury did keep him out of this first group game in particular. Thankfully, that was not the case. Extra midfielder, that was Anto Bratic, and also Craig Johnston as an extra attacker, young striker out of the Wellington Phoenix, and our strikers, they can cover right wing. So I do think our balance is quite good with those additions to our usual 23-man squad. But thankfully, can go into this first game with a first choice 11, as I said, apart from the fact that Adam White will start left back, considering Libby is just a little bit tired. And we start things off by taking on the Ivory Coast, albeit off the back of 3 warm-up games. And these went surprisingly well. So actually going to this World Cup with quite a bit of confidence. Usually we're a bit in the warm-up games, especially considering usually use those games to get the fringe players up to fitness. Thankfully this time, not that many players did need the fitness. We started off with a 2-1 win over Nigeria, all these games away from home. Marko Stamanic with an early penalty. Boniface grabbed an equaliser a few minutes later, but Jacob Hall-Jones in the second half did grab a winner. So we start off with a win over the team who are inside the top 20 in the world rankings. So that was a good start to our build-up. Then a bit of a more expected result as we beat the White Wolves of Uzbekistan 4-0. And then a win over Belgium. Now, my computer crashed off the back of the first time I played this game again. We won at 5-2. I kind of struggled to get that result. And I did want the momentum from 3 straight wins going into the World Cup. So I simmed it until we got a 3-0 win. That was the closest I could get, and to be fair, same goal margin, a clean sheet, which is kind of cheesy, but it's the best I could do. But we did beat Belgium 5-2. The first time I played them, it was very FME. We did not have that many shots compared to Belgium, but all of them were on target. But we did beat Belgium, and that was quite a good scalp for us, considering they are 17th in the world. So some good wins there over both Nigeria and Belgium. That should give us some pretty good confidence going into this World Cup, albeit the fact I did sim that last game does mean probably a couple of subs there I would have made in that game that did not go through with the assistant in charge, but hopefully that gives us some confidence for these games against Ivory Coast and the Netherlands, even though both of those teams are a bit higher ranked than the teams we have just beaten in the warm-up games. With some good form going into this tournament. Hopefully that will carry over. The one thing I will say, we made lots of subs available for those games, so they did not count for the world rankings, which is a bit sad because that would have actually been really useful for our world rankings, the wins there over Nigeria and Belgium. But first up today, we take on the Ivory Coast. This is the pot 1 team in our group at this World Cup, 10th in the world, but we've been pretty good against African teams so far in the save with the All Whites, especially at World Cups. Karim Kanane is their captain, the Liverpool striker. Also, they've got Datro Fofana at Chelsea in real life, but these days at Brentford, and their vice captain is someone who's playing over in Saudi Arabia. But Ivory Coast, probably one of the stronger African nations we've taken on so far in this save, but hopefully we can pick up a decent result considering their warm-up form not too great, albeit you could argue they've played some stronger nations than we have here with the All Whites. And we actually almost got a helping hand in the first game in this group that we didn't take part in, because that's already taken place before our kickoff here on the first match day. The Netherlands, it took them till the last 6 minutes to pick up a win over Iraq. If Iraq can take any points off of the Netherlands or the Ivory Coast, that could really help us in qualifying from this group as one of the top 2 teams. But as I've said a few times off the back of this group getting drawn, as long as we beat Iraq quite comfortably, as I think we should, and take a point off of one of those other 2 teams, I think we're going to go through as one of the best 3rd place teams. That is the aim, because the Netherlands and Ivory Coast are probably a bit better than us, so hopefully we can at least grab a point off those guys and fresh Iraq to make sure we do go through to the knockout sheet again. But we're in South Korea for this World Cup. I'm going to try and do some bus trips, albeit the first stadium that we're going to is actually the same stadium as for all our games in the group stage of this World Cup, the Kim Ho Stadium, which is in Pohang of Pohang Steelers fame. Unfortunately, it's a fake stadium, so instead of doing an actual bus trip to where this ground is, considering it's not a real one, and if we check on the Pohang Steelers, they are still playing at the Steel Yard in Pohang, so instead of doing a bus trip to this random stadium that's popped up for this World Cup, we're going to do one to the Steel Yard where the Steelers play. And of course we start off with our accommodation for this trip to the Kim Ho Stadium / the Steel Yard over in Pohang. We'll just assume they've built this new stadium where the old one used to be, even though the Pohang Steelers are still playing at the old one. This was the best accommodation I could find anywhere near the stadium. the Pohang Haidodong Spring Stay Stay Motel. So I'm not too sure if it would actually fit a whole football team, but it looks decent. We're going to roll with it considering it's not too far away from the ground and it's got the best reviews of anywhere that is near the ground itself. There you can see all the flags of all the countries at the World Cup hanging from the roof, so it's definitely in World Cup mode. To be fair, it does look a little bit backpackery. I think FIFA could probably do a bit better than this for us at a World Cup, but considering we're kind of making things up on the spot for this bus trip because of the whole fake stadium thing, we're going to go with this one. To be fair, inside the rooms themselves, that looks quite tidy, as you'd expect from South Korea. So this is where we're going to stay. Apparently pain ain't something there across from the bed, but there is the place we're staying. Lots of flowers. It looks pretty tidy. We'll go there. Free luxury perfumes and hair gels and whatnot. We'll take that with us. We're pretty cheap here in New Zealand. New Zealand football still don't pay us too well, despite the fact we've been doing quite well with the national team. But there is our accommodation for the group stages here in Pohang. And the reason we're staying here is because that means it's a relatively short trip to the ground, albeit apparently driving is not available according to Google Maps. We'll just see about that shortly when we start to make our way on this bus trip. We are staying up there. We do have to go over a bridge, which is a bit of a concern, but the Pohang Steel Yard is down there. As I said, let's just assume in this situation that is the Kim Ho Stadium that got built in 2024, even though I'm pretty sure that's not happening, but that's the reason we're staying at that hotel. It's not too far away from the ground itself. Let's start to make our way towards the stadium in a bus / potentially subway trip. And here we are staying off this bus trip right outside of our accommodation. There's a little bit of parking there. It's not the flashiest place. It's right next to a tyre shop, which to be fair, could be quite useful if we get a flatty, but we want to make our way this way by the looks of it and start to get going towards the Pohang Stadium. Hopefully I can understand what some of this stuff is, but I am still working on my Korean. I had a pretty handy translator when I was over there last year in Seoul. That was the only place I went to. So yeah, I was hoping we get Seoul for some games at this World Cup. Hopefully that might be the case if we do make our way into the knockouts. But at the moment, we can actually drive to the stadium. Let's start making our way to the Steel Yard. And because we're no doubt in one of those big fancy FIFA buses which have all the police escorts and whatnot, I'm pretty sure we can run here a red light and start to make our way onto this bridge, which should take us towards the stadium. As I say that, this might get a bit interesting with Google Maps. In fact, we're in New Zealand, we're going to drive down the wrong side of the road, but here's the bridge that we are going over on our way towards the Steel Yard, where of course the Pohang Steelers, they do play, even though technically not the ground we're supposed to be playing at. But I said we'd do a bus trip. We're doing a bus trip, especially just in case we do get knocked out in the group stages. And because Google Maps is a bit weird, we've actually to switch here onto the right side of the road to be driving here in South Korea, which might actually save our lives a bit. But now it's time to make our way over this bridge. This is a very solid bridge, unlike some of the ones we tried to drive across in Australia and New Zealand. You actually make your way over this one with Google Maps. It does look quite picturesque here as we make our way over this bridge. As I said, haven't been able to do this on some other bridges around the world, but this one, it's solid, as you'd expect considering it's near a stadium called the Steel Yard. But we're going to safely make our way over a bridge, I think, for the first time in the series. That almost deserves a celebratory beer. That's going to be my Sunday night activities, I think. But we've made our way over the bridge. Let's now start to make our way a bit closer to the stadium and see if anything interesting pops up that I actually realise is popping up. Because obviously, as I said, my Korean still not too good. Really should have got my wife to do these bus trips. And nothing too interesting has popped up so far as we've made our way over the bridge, just going past some pretty industrial stuff. A couple of big buildings on either side on our way to the stadium. But we have just discovered a bus twin. Twins. And just down the road from our bus twin, we're actually starting to go past the Hyundai Steel area. So that could be interesting. Apparently, engineering the future beyond steel. I dare say that might be where the name the Steel Yard comes from for that ground that the Pohang Steelers are using. But there's the first interesting thing I can actually read on this bus trip so far. And we're still making our way closer to the stadium for this first game of this FIFA World Cup. Now there's definitely some better eating options in South Korea. If we get to Seoul, I might even be able to do a fried chicken bus trip if we get that far in the tournament. But the first restaurant I've seen that I can actually understand what it is, Burger King, so that might be our feed either side of this game, at least for the managerial team. And just down the road from the Burger King, it gets even better. There's a 7-Eleven for petrol and also snacks. So real authentic South Korean food we're discovering so far. And we'll continue to make our way here down what I think is Road or Route 31 here in South Korea. Not exactly sure, but that's what it looks like here from Google Maps. And we're about to get where we should be able to turn off for the Pohang Steel Yard. Apart from the fact that you can't actually turn that way in a car, so I think what we'll have to try and do here is go back this way and then take a little bit of a right hand turn back from where we were going. Let's hope this works. It's not gonna work, so how on earth do I get closer to the stadium if I can at all? Let's try and get a bit closer somehow, but that might be difficult because there's no roads near it. That might be why it suggested to take the subway, so I think we might need to just magically teleport our way now to the Pohang Steel Yard. That bus trip was a little bit but hopefully we get to a different city for one we can do better in the knockouts of this competition. Let's try and get a few photos now of the Pohang Steel Yard, even though technically not where we're playing. It will do the job for these group games at the World Cup. And unfortunately, I can't actually find any 360 views here of the Pohang Steel Yard. Instead, I've found a couple of photos here from Korea Road Tube. This might be the sort of entrance to the ground. I'm not entirely sure, but it does look like that might be a couple of marshals. That might be somewhat of a Pohang Steelers logo, happy family into the ground sort of thing. I'm not too sure. But there are a few kids in Pohang Steeler colours, so that's what I'm going to presume. This is kind of what the outside of the stadium looks like, the best I can show you guys. So we're probably going to have to rely here on some still images from Google. And this is what we've got. First up here is the inside of the stadium in the red and the blue. It's a decent little stadium. Let's just presume it got expanded upon for this World Cup like it says in Football Manager. But it's a decent little ground to be fair. Can't expect too many people to show up to watch teams like New Zealand play in a World Cup, albeit I say that. We're kind of a big deal these days. We're a lot higher in the world rankings than South Korea are now. There's a bit of a better look at the actual outside of the stadium. It doesn't look too bad. You can kind of see why it's called the Steel Yard. It's a bit silver and whatnot. There's some players warming up. There's another view. Concrete Yard might be a better name than Steel Yard, but we'll make our way forward a bit more. There's some players when they were on the field after a K1 League game, I presume. That's the case again. There's a post-match interview. I presume that one might be after the Steelers lost, because that bloke does not look too happy. And there is the local FA Cup final, which actually, it looks like the Pohang Steelers won back in 2023. There are the fans going wild, and there is the pre-match shot, and indeed, that's the mascot there. So that was actually before the entrance to the ground. So I was kind of accurate in assuming that was the case. There's a Last Dance poster. They must think that they're Michael Jordan or something. But anyway, there's some pictures of the Steel Yard. We were kind of playing these games here in the group stage of the FIFA World Cup. Hopefully, let's get off here to a good start and try and take a point off the Ivory Coast. And that could help us go a long way to making our way into the knockouts. And here are the team sheets for this first game of the 2034 FIFA World Cup with the All Whites. First up, there are the Ivory Coast. Quite surprisingly, only going with one of their two quite good strikers, but they are also going with a 4-2-3-1. Just like us, as I said, one change to our best 11 these days. Adam White comes in for a bit of a tighter libero, Kakache, but hopefully we can grab a point from this game and put us in a good position to at least go through as one of the best third place teams. And less than a minute into this game, we've got an early free kick here, which George McDonald will take. Flick down there by Kelly Hill for Adam White. Big chance. He was offside, so thankfully doesn't matter that he missed the target. Early chance there, but still 0-0. And we go all the way forward to the half-hour mark for the next highlight in this game so far. It's been a pretty quiet affair. 2 shots to 1. Ivory Coast was on target. Ours wasn't, but thankfully we deal with that danger now. George McDonald starts to make his way forward here down this right-hand side. Let's see what our star striker can do. Floats that one far post there for Josh Pickering. Header tries to loop that one over the goalkeeper, but unfortunately the woodwork saves them, still 0-0. But right off the back of that, there is a corner, unfortunately. Not a very good one, but thankfully Justin Keat just has enough pace to get that ball for us before the Ivory Coast player, who hopefully I don't call the Netherlands because those uniforms are both quite similar. But George McDonald gets played through there by Cornelis Beale and helps us take a 1-0 lead here at the Kim Ho Stadium, Steel Yard, whatever we're going to call it here, in Pohang. But thankfully, we strike first here in the World Cup. If we can win this game, that could set us up to qualify by the end of today's episode for the knockouts. Nice finish there from McDonald from a tight angle to get that one past Gooley there in goal for the Ivory Coast. He's onside. Nice assist there from Cornelis Beale, our man formerly from up at AFC Auckland. And we take a 1-0 lead 10 minutes before half-time. And we're just making our way into 3 minutes of added time in this first half. 1-0 up, and I'd take that scoreline going into half-time, even though we've actually been quite dominant so far based on what we've seen in this half. A very late highlight though, and it's a throw-in. Darman floats that one far post, and this time Pickering puts it on target. It's a big goal right before half-time, a cushion goal to take a 2-0 lead here over the Ivory Coast. Hopefully we can now hold on, at least pick up a point from this game, and maybe even 3. As I said earlier, a win from this game and also beat Iraq, we could be going through by the end of today's episode to the second round. But that is a very good first half to be for the Ivory Coast. Actually a similar amount of shots to us and more on target, but thankfully ours a lot more efficient and better goal scoring chances. We take both of them through George McDonald and Josh Pickering. 2-0 up here at halftime in our first game of this World Cup. Going to take off these players here who are on a yellow card. Cody Phoenix can come on for Adam White, considering that Libby is a bit of a tired boy at the moment, and Marko Stamenic not quite on a full green heart, but let's bring him on for Beale on that yellow card, even though he did get the assist for that first goal. But very happy with how this one's going at the moment. Hopefully we can just hold on and pick up a big 3 points against the pot 1 team from our group in this first game. And 10 minutes into the second half, first highlight here, a free kick, and Marko Stamenic here could just float this one over the top for Pickering. That's what he does in a ton of space. Chips the goalkeeper, gets some help from the post, but that is some sloppy defensive work from the Ivory Coast. You can see that coming from a mile away from this angle. The director camera here on Football Manager. It's a massive chance. That is some dreadful work defensively. Thankfully, Pickering makes the most of it, gets himself on a hat-trick, and that really should put this game to bed as we take a 3-0 lead. And only a couple minutes on from that third goal, now it's a free kick here in our favour. Looking for Kelly Hill, it looked like there at the far post. Ivory Coast can head that one away, but Jamie Young is there to tidy things up so far, having a solid debut here for the All Whites in a game that's actually kept, because as I said, those friendlies were not because we used lots of subs, with them being warm-up games for the World Cup. Thankfully, back on the attack here. Big chance for George McDonald to make it 4-0, albeit he did straight offside, but definitely based on highlights, the team here who are on the front foot. And we've got a 3-0 lead, and before I can wrap things up, we're still a bit on the front foot here. This throw-in is deep inside of the Ivory Coast half, albeit it is in favour of them. But you wouldn't think that this was the team currently ranked 10th in the world based on how this game's gone so far, even off the back of those good results that we did pick up coming in to this tournament. Albeit, as I say that, they are actually keeping hold of the ball from this highlight play that 1-4 there to Gorby, and now Diamonde gets in behind. Big chance for him, misses the target, and also he was offside as well. We're still 3-0 up with only 20 minutes left. And it's off the back of that offside chance there for the Ivory Coast. Josh Pickering just dropped down there to a red heart. Was about to make a sub, but a highlight starts here, so we'll wait and see what happens from this one. Unfortunately, might not be in our favour, because Stamenic there with a poor pass, and Laf makes his way onto the edge of the box. Butchered that name, but Ivory Coast here are still on the attack, and they strike back there through Jean-Baptiste Gorby. That's probably the sign here that we should take off these tired players, both our wingers. So Hall Jones can come on at left wing and Chris Jones out right for Justin Keat. It does mean we're going to take off Pickering on a hat-trick, but we want the fresh legs out there, and also that might mean he's fit for the next game, which actually could help us seal our spot in the knockouts. It might mean we can rest some players against the Netherlands instead of against Iraq, just to make sure we actually do get the job done here. And that does mean we can rest our first team players heading in to potentially our second round game here at the World Cup at the Ivory Coast. They do strike back and make it 3-1 with around about 15 minutes left now. A couple more players do go down to red hearts. I think we might want to take off here Martin Darman at right back instead of Lucas Kelly-Heald, because I don't think the centre backs do as much movement as a right back would in our system. So Victor Sono, he can come on also. We'll chuck him on to support, and we might start doing a little bit of time wasting stuff as well, just to make sure Ivory Coast don't find a way to grab something from this game, because this would be a big 3 points against the pot 1 team from our group with just over 10 minutes left. And so far the time wasting things we implemented about 10 minutes ago have been working, about to make our way here into 4 minutes of added time, starting off more shots than the Ivory Coast, still only 3 on target, but thankfully we've made all of them count, and that is a massive win yet again over African opposition at a FIFA World Cup. We beat a team 10th in the world there in our first game, thanks to goals through George McDonald and a double either side of half-time through Josh Pickering. That third goal he scored, some dreadful defensive work from a free kick there from the Ivory Coast. They grab one back with 15 minutes left to make things just a little bit interesting, but really always in control of that game, and that's a brilliant start to this World Cup. That means we're going to go top of the group off the back of our first game, and really we could get an early chance to go through to the second round if we can beat Iraq, and also if the Netherlands can take some points off of the Ivory Coast. That might mean they can't catch us going in that final match day. So a brilliant start to the World Cup for us here in 2034 with the All Whites, and now it's time for us to turn our attention to Iraq. But before then, here's a recap of what's happened since the first game that we did play. Here's also a recap of the games that did take place on the first day of the tournament, if you are wondering. So far, probably the biggest surprise is that the hosts are struggling in what did look like a pretty average group. South Korea, as we know, not too hot in this save. We've beaten them quite a bit over the course of these last couple of seasons. There's what happened the day before our second game here in the group, which is against Iraq. And indeed, we are going to get the chance here to go through the knockouts if we can beat them, because the Netherlands, it was a late goal yet again, but they've beaten the Ivory Coast 1-0. If we win this game, us and the Netherlands already guaranteed to go through the knockouts before we take each other on the final match day. So this, quite a big game, albeit I am still going to rotate quite a bit for this one, and that's mainly out of necessity, because quite a few of our players are still tired from that first game, which was only 4 or 5 days ago. Lots of changes going into this one. As you can see on the bench, there's lots of tired boys. That is the reason that we are making these changes. The only players still there from the first game, we've got George McDonald up front, Justin Keat at right wing, Cornelis Biel, because Stamanic is actually quite tight off the back of that second half he played the other day. And to be fair, picking up a yellow card in this game, probably better than doing it going into a second round game. So I think we're going to start Stamanic in that Netherlands game. If Biel gets another yellow card here, he can serve a suspension in that Netherlands game. Also worth noting that Joe Bell's retiring off the back of this competition, so Anto Bradic will make his way into the squad off the back of this World Cup a bit more regularly, and we've changed our entire back four. Kakatje comes in as he usually would, but Bindon and Billingsley at centre back and Victor Sono, he can start at right back. So lots of changes as we do take on Iraq, but as I showed you earlier, this is a team we know we can beat from late last year, and they're all the way down in 75th in the world. This did look like a quite easy kill for us in this group, and even if we did lose the other 2 games, I was hopeful if we beat these guys by a big enough margin, that should see us go through with a good enough goal differential with only 3 points as one of the best third place teams as it works out. Now, just need to beat them, and we're guaranteed to be going through to the second round, and might even have a shot at topping our group if we can take something off of the Netherlands. But now it's time for the second game at the World Cup yet again at the Kim Ho Stadium as we take on Iraq. And here are the team sheets for this big game for us in the second match day of the World Cup. A win here, as I said, will see us go through to the second round. We're in for our changes before. There's a lot of them because quite a few tired boys on the bench, but Iraq are going with a 4-4-2. They're in pretty poor form. We beat them last year. If we can do the same today, we're going through to the second round with a game still to play. And just shy of the 5-minute mark here, we get the first highlighted corner in our favour. This time we are playing in the all black, and apparently there's a handball from that corner. It's been given straight away. Might have to wait here though for VAR to make sure, but those usually do get awarded, and an early chance here for us to go in front. Now, to be fair, Josh Pickering not starting. It's not too sure who's on the penalty. It's Jamie Kelly these days, the second choice central attacking midfielder, but he's had lots of first team experience over the last couple of years in this World Cup cycle. Had a bit of help there from the post, it looked like, but to be fair, it's a pretty good penalty. Mohammed went the right way, but no stopping that one, and Jamie Kelly gives us an early 1-0 lead, and we already might be on our way through the second round. And we've gone for 20 minutes off back of that opening goal, but are now down the other end here for a corner to Iraq. We hit that one away, but they're still on the ball here inside of the final third. Mohammed tries to play that one into the mix, so thankfully Victor Sono can clear that one away, albeit only into the path of Svensson. Plays that back to Iqbal. A little bit thrown off here by the fact we're not in the all-white, but I suppose Iraq do usually play in those colours, and a New Zealand team never looks bad in all black. And good interception there from the goal scorer, Jamie Kelly. And now Sono plays that one back forward to him, makes his way inside the box. Big tackle there on McDonald, but the ball falls through to Jacob Hall-Jones, who must have just picked up a yellow card before that highlight, but that might be the dagger blow here for Iraq. In this World Cup, we take a 2-0 lead and are looking very good to make our way through to the second round already. Good counter-attacking goal, that one off the back of defending that corner, and thankfully Hall-Jones is there to tap that one home before we get to the next highlight. Let's get him to ease off tackles, but that's an early cushion goal here in the second game of the World Cup. As I said, looking pretty good to make our way through the second round, and that means the result against the Netherlands first up in tomorrow's episode won't matter, and we can probably actually put out a second string team for that game just to make sure our first teamers are fit for whoever we get in the second round, albeit might be speaking too soon. That did look like a pretty clean tackle, that one from Victor Sono, but it has been given as a penalty, albeit VAR does want the referee to check it. I'll just take my time here, catch my breath, and we'll come back when he eventually makes the decision. And after a few seconds, he starts to make his way away from the screen. It's no penalty, a good clean tackle, that one from Victor Sono, so thankfully no chance there for Iraq to pull a goal back, and we're still 2-0 in front. And only a few minutes on from that VAR decision in our favour. Now we're down the other end again here for a corner in our favour. Unfortunately, can't get on the end of that one, but Jamie Kelly's there to tidy things up, and a good switch out there to Libero Kakacha. He starts to make his way in field and finds Jacob Hall-Jones. Nice first time finish there with his right foot, but unfortunately that one comes off the woodwork. So far, definitely the team on the front foot, apart from that penalty, which nearly got given. This could be a big deciding factor in this game, though. Ryan Billingsley, you stupid head. Max Caputo, you have a new friend in the save. We are down 10 men, thankfully, already with a 2-0 lead. Hopefully, against the team 75th in the world, we can hold on to this. Just debating here, who we bring on as an extra centre-back, because both our usual centre-backs are quite tired. Victor Sono is 1.9 metres tall. I've only just realised that. His heading's not too good, but boy, he's got some good jumping reach. So, Martin Darman for Jamie Kelly. Harsh on Jamie Kelly, but I think Cam's the right decision to take off here for an extra defender. And Victor Sono, he can play as the ball-playing defender for the latter stages of this game, seeing as he's blimmin' tall. But that could be a big factor. Ryan Billingsley there with a red card might give Iraq a way back into this game. And only a few minutes shy of half-time, actually a free kick here in our favour. Tyler Bin hens that one down nicely for George McDonald. Big chance there. It comes off the woodwork and gets cleared away for a corner in our favour. Might be making a few more subs here at half-time too. Tyler Binden now as well, as Hall-Jones is on a yellow card. Unfortunately, can't do anything from that subsequent corner. We make our way into 3 minutes of added time. Thankfully, no silly second yellow cards for those players already on them, but we're 2-0 in front. I'm happy with that. Would be a lot happier though if Ryan Billingsley did not pick up that red card. We're going to make some subs just to make sure we don't go down to 9, because that would be big trouble. I think here we bring on Simon Curtis for Tyler Binden. That's probably the safe option, and he can go to central defender. Curtis is better suited to that role than a ball-playing defender, and also we might bring on Cody Phoenix at left wing, seeing as Josh Pickering was very tired going into this game. Phoenix can play a bit further forward, so it was quite a useful addition as an extra player in the squad. But so far, we're doing well. Let's hope that red card doesn't prove too costly. We can hold on and make our way through to the second round off the back of this match. An early chance there from a free kick to George McDonald. It just goes over the crossbar. Still 2-0 New Zealand. And just before the hour mark in this game, Justin Keat, of course, has started both games so far in this tournament, one of the few. He's gone down to a red heart So let's take him off. Chris Jones does look like the most sensible option on the bench. We could bring on Olise, but to be fair, he'll probably get some game time in place of George McDonald when we take on the Netherlands, provided we hold on and pick up the 3 points to go through from this game. And off the back of that, there is a throw-in in our favour. McDonald does make his way forward inside the box, takes on a shot there from a tight angle and beats the goalkeeper in Mohammed. That should put this one to bed even, though we're down to 10 men and a half hour left. That makes it 3-0. We're doing really well at the moment with this All Whites team, and maybe that warm-up form was not quite the fluke I thought it was going to be. A good win over the Ivory Coast, and now we're dealing to Iraq even though we've been down to 10 men for a good 20 or so minutes now of this game as we make it 3-0. And a few minutes off back of that goal, and also that highlight that we thankfully cut off there through a praise. Now we're down the other end here for a corner to Iraq, and to be fair, they go quite close there. Then they get another shot off, but thankfully a looping header into the path of Alex Paulson. They nearly pull one back, but still 3-0 New Zealand. In fact, off the back of that, I think it might be time for us soon to make our final sub, albeit we might just wait, because I think that Cornelius Beale is a player we might rest in our final game, and Stamnich is completely naked on the bench. Simon Curtis down to a red heart. That might be the sensible sub here with 17 minutes left. I know we brought him on at half-time, but let's just make sure we have some centre-backs available for that next game, considering that Billingsley will be suspended. Anto Bratic can come on for him. That's all our subs used. Thankfully, still 3-0 in front. And we're just made our way into the last 5 minutes of this game. Thankfully, that red card in the first half of Ryan Billingsley isn't going to prove too costly. Taking off Jamie Kelly proved to be quite the smart decision managerially. We grabbed a goal in the second half through George McDonald in the first half, goals there from the spot to Jamie Kelly, and also the other one was scored, once I can remember, it was from Jacob Hall-Jones. That was right before that red card, of course, and we pick up a 3-0 win, and that will see us go through to the second round before we take on the Netherlands. And I think with goal differential, a draw from that game will see us go through top of the group, and in theory, that should see us get a weaker team in the second round of this tournament. But to be fair, the main thing is that we're through, and we can rest some first team players if we need to in that Netherlands game before we make our way through to those knockouts tomorrow. So a really good first episode of this 2024 World Cup for us here with the All Whites. The big result was that 3-1 win over the Ivory Coast, and thankfully, despite that red card, we backed it up with a 3-0 win over Iraq, and us in the Netherlands already guaranteed to be going through to the second round. So really, doesn't matter too much who wins that game in tomorrow's episode. First up, of course, we're going to show you guys it just in case we do pick up another good result, but a draw, that would be enough to see us go through as the top qualifier. And as I said, in theory, we should get a weaker team in the second round if that's the case. But that will do it for today's episode. 2 big wins there, and we're already guaranteed to have knockout football for you guys in tomorrow's episode. If you enjoyed it, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also consider hitting that subscribe button and turning that notification bell on as well. Tomorrow we'll play that last group game against the Netherlands, see where we end up and who we get in the second round, and we'll also take them on. It might even be a bus trip if we move away from the Pohang region. So until tomorrow for that Netherlands game, and also we'll take part in the second round of this 2024 World Cup. Thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.